The year was 2347. Humanity had spread across the stars. They had built colonies on 12 different star systems. They had ships that could travel faster than light. They had cities on planets that their ancestors could only dream about. For 300 years, humans believed they were alone in the universe. They were wrong. Admiral Jack Monroe stood on the bridge of the UES Resolute. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the fleet for 30 years. He had seen many things, but he had never seen anything like what appeared on his screen that morning. The sensors showed a fleet of ships coming out of hyperspace. There were hundreds of them. They were not human ships. They were made of something that looked like crystal. They glowed with a strange blue light. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission," said Commander Lisa Harper. She was young but smart. She had been Monroe's second in command for 5 years. "Put it on screen," Monroe said. The screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not human. The creature had 4 eyes and skin that looked like polished stone. Its mouth was filled with sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was cold like ice. "Humans of New Geneva Colony, we are the Dominion. Your species has been judged. You are unworthy to exist among the stars. Surrender your worlds or face destruction. You have 1 hour." The transmission ended. Monroe felt his heart beating fast. He looked at Harper. She looked back at him with fear in her eyes. "Get me Earth Command," Monroe said. "Now." But there was no time. They did not wait 1 hour. They lied. The attack began immediately. The crystal ships opened fire. Beams of pure energy shot down from the sky. They hit the surface of New Geneva Colony. Buildings exploded. Streets melted. People ran and screamed. But there was nowhere to run. Monroe watched from orbit. He could not believe what he was seeing. New Geneva was a peaceful colony. It had 8 million people. It had schools and hospitals and parks. Children played there. Families lived there. Now it was burning. "All ships return fire," Monroe ordered. The human fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons did nothing. The plasma cannons hit the shields and disappeared. The missiles exploded before they reached their targets. The human ships were destroyed one by one. "Sir, we have lost the defender," Harper reported. Her voice was shaking. "The victory is gone. The courage is gone." Monroe gripped the arms of his chair. He watched his fleet die around him. Good men and women, his friends, his family. "Sir, we need to retreat," Harper said. "We cannot win this fight." Monroe knew she was right. He hated it, but she was right. "All remaining ships fall back to the jump point," he ordered. "Emergency hyperspace jump, now." The Resolute turned and ran. Behind them, New Geneva burned. 8 million voices were silenced forever. On Earth, the news spread fast. President Grant was in a meeting when his assistant burst through the door. Her face was white with shock. "Sir, you need to see this," she said. Grant followed her to the war room. Generals and admirals were already there. They were watching screens that showed the destruction. Colony after colony was under attack. New Geneva, Station, Titan Base, Mars Outpost 7. "How many dead?" Grant asked. Defense Secretary Morgan turned to face him. She was a strong woman who had faced many crises, but now she looked broken. 20 million so far," she said, "and the attacks are still happening." Grant sat down. He felt sick. 20 million people, families, children, gone in a few hours. "What do they want?" he asked. "They want us to surrender," Morgan said. "They want all of our colonies. They want Earth. And if we refuse, they say they will kill every human in existence." The room was silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. How could they fight this? They had ships that human weapons could not touch. They had technology that humans did not understand. They were stronger in every way. Admiral Monroe's face appeared on one of the screens. He was alive. His ship had escaped. "Mr. President," Monroe said, "I have seen what they can do. We cannot match them in a straight fight, but I refuse to surrender. I refuse to let humanity die." Grant looked at the faces around him. He saw fear. He saw grief. But he also saw something else. He saw anger. He saw the same fire that had burned in human hearts for thousands of years. Humanity had always faced enemies. They had faced ice ages and plagues and wars. They had faced everything that tried to destroy them, and they had survived. They had always survived. "What do you suggest, Admiral?" Grant asked. "We go dark," Monroe said. "We hide. We rebuild. We learn their technology and make it better, and then we hit them so hard that their great will remember it." Grant nodded slowly. He understood what Monroe was saying. This was not going to be a quick war. This was going to take years, maybe decades, but it was the only way. He stood up and faced the room. "They think they have beaten us," he said. "They think we are weak. They think we will surrender and die like good little animals, but they do not know humanity. They do not know what we become when you hurt the people we love. They do not know what we become when you back us into a corner." He paused. His voice grew hard as stone. "Today we mourn our dead. Tomorrow we start building our answer. And when we are ready, we will show the what happens when you bomb Earth's children. We will teach them a lesson that the entire galaxy will never forget." In the burned ruins of New Geneva, a rescue team found a little girl. She was 3 years old. She was holding a teddy bear. Her name was Emma. She was the only survivor of her entire city block. When they asked her what happened, she said only 2 words: "Bad aliens." Across Earth, across every human colony that still stood, people watched the news. They saw the destruction. They saw the death. They cried for their lost families and friends. But underneath the tears, something was growing. It was old as humanity itself. It was the thing that had made humans climb down from trees and cross oceans and reach for the stars. It was rage, pure and simple rage. They had woken a sleeping giant. They just did not know it yet. And in the dark places of human space, the first plans were already being made. The first scientists were already asking questions. The first soldiers were already sharpening their knives. Earth had been bombed. Earth would answer. They had made the biggest mistake in the history of their species. They had assumed that silence meant surrender. They had assumed that retreat meant defeat. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 5 years passed. They believed they had won. They thought humanity was broken and beaten. They laughed at the primitive species that had dared to resist them. They set up mining operations on the conquered human worlds. They stripped the planets bare of resources. They treated the surviving humans like animals. But deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, something was happening. A secret facility had been built. It was called Project Titan, and it was about to change everything. Dr. Ben stood in front of a massive screen. He was a small man with messy hair and glasses that were always dirty. He did not look like a weapon designer, but he was the person on Earth. "Show me the data again," he said to his assistant. The screen lit up with numbers and diagrams. Studied them carefully. For 3 years, his team had been working on captured technology. They had taken apart alien weapons and shields and engines. They had learned how they worked, and now they were ready to make something better. "The quantum disruption field is stable," his assistant reported. "We can punch through shields now." Smiled. It was a cold smile. He remembered the day the attacks happened. He remembered watching the news with his wife and daughter. He remembered the fear in their eyes. "Good," he said. "Build me 100 of them, then build 1,000 more." On Mars, another secret project was. Admiral Monroe had been given command of the Shadow Fleet. These were ships that officially did not exist. They were built in hidden shipyards carved into asteroids. They were designed by the best engineers humanity had. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez walked Monroe through the ship. It was called the Ghost. It was black as space itself. Its engines made almost no heat signature. Its weapons were hidden inside the hull. She can bend space around herself, Martinez explained. To enemy sensors, she does not exist. She can get right next to a ship before they even know she is there. Monroe ran his hand along the smooth hull. He thought about his friends who had died at New Geneva. He thought about the 8 million people who had burned. "How fast can we build more?" he asked. "One ship every 2 weeks, Martinez said. "We already have 50. "I want 500. Martinez nodded. He understood. They all understood. This was not about defense anymore. This was about revenge. In the deserts of Nevada, Captain Kate trained the new soldiers. They were called the Iron Legion. They were not normal soldiers. They had been changed. Volunteers from all over Earth had come to join. They knew the risks. The process was painful and dangerous. Many did not survive, but those who did became something more than human. Their bones were made stronger with metal alloys. Their eyes could see in total darkness. Their reflexes were faster than any normal person. They could run for days without getting tired. They could survive in environments that would kill regular humans. Captain watched a group of recruits run an obstacle course. They moved like shadows. They were silent and deadly. Sergeant Mike Torres stood beside her. He had been one of the first to undergo the process. His left arm was now mechanical, stronger than steel. "They are ready," Torres said. "Nobody is ever ready for war," replied, "but they will have to be." In the remains of human space, General Dan Porter ran the intelligence network. He was an old man with a face like carved wood. He had been a spy for 40 years. Now he was the master of all spies. His agents were everywhere. They had disguised themselves as slaves and workers. They had infiltrated mining operations. They had stolen technology and secrets and battle plans. Every week new information came to Earth. The location of bases, the routes of their supply ships, the names of their commanders, the weaknesses in their shields. Porter sat in his office, reading the latest reports. A young agent named Chris Bell stood before him. "They are getting comfortable," Bell said. "They think we are no threat. Their patrols are getting lazy. Their guards are getting bored." Porter nodded slowly. This was exactly what he wanted to hear. "Keep watching," he said. "When the time comes, I want to know everything about them. I want to know when their admirals eat breakfast. I want to know when their soldiers go to sleep." On the Of Prime, High Commander gave a speech to the Dominion Council. He was the leader of the military. He was proud and arrogant. He believed his species was superior to all others. "The humans are finished," he declared. "They hide in their little corner of space like frightened animals. They are no longer a concern. We have won." The council members cheered. They raised their glasses to toast their victory. They did not know that a human agent was serving their drinks. They did not know that every word they said was being recorded. Back on Earth, President Grant met with his war council. 5 years of work had led to this moment. The weapons were ready. The ships were ready. The soldiers were ready. Admiral Monroe presented the battle plan. It was simple but bold. They would strike everywhere at once. They would hit so fast and so hard that the enemy would not have time to respond. "We call it Operation Thunder," Monroe said. "On the 5th anniversary of the New Geneva attack, we launch every Shadow Fleet ship, every Iron Legion soldier, every weapon we have built." Defense Secretary Morgan studied the plans. She saw the scope of what they were attempting. It was the largest military operation in human history. "Can we win?" she asked. Monroe looked at her with hard eyes. He thought about all the people who had died. He thought about little Emma, the girl from New Geneva, who was now 8 years old and living with a foster family on Earth. He had promised himself that he would make the universe safe for her. "We will win," he said, "because we have to, because there is no other choice." Doctor arrived at the meeting with a new report. His latest weapon was ready. It was called the Star Hammer. It could destroy an entire battle station with a single shot. "They have never seen anything like this," said. "Their shields are designed to stop their own weapons. Our weapons work on completely different principles. They will not know what hit them." The council members looked at each other. For 5 years they had lived in fear. For 5 years they had hidden and planned and waited. Now the waiting was almost over. Grant stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the sky. Somewhere up there they were going about their business. They were laughing at humans. They were calling them primitive and weak. "In 1 month everything changes," Grant said quietly. "In 1 month we show the galaxy what humanity is really made of." The countdown had begun. The weapons were loaded. The soldiers were ready. The ships were fueled and armed. Humanity had been silent for 5 years, but silence was not surrender. Silence was preparation. Silence was the calm before the storm. And the storm was coming. In her room on Earth, 8-year-old Emma looked at a picture of her parents. She did not remember them. She had been too young, but she knew they had loved her. She knew they had died when the bad aliens attacked. She made a wish that night, the same wish she made every night. "Make the bad aliens sorry," she whispered. "Make them pay." Somewhere in the dark of space, Admiral Monroe stood on the bridge of his new flagship. It was called the UES Vengeance. It was the most powerful ship humanity had ever built. He looked at the stars and thought about the future. In 1 month, those stars would burn with the fire of human anger. In 1 month, they would learn the true meaning of fear. "We are coming for you," he whispered to the darkness, "and there is nowhere in the galaxy where you can hide." The night was dark on Prime. The capital city glowed with blue light from 1,000,000 crystal towers. In the great council hall, High Commander was having a celebration. It was the 5th anniversary of their victory over the humans. He wanted to remember the day he had brought a new species to its knees. "Bring more wine," he ordered. "Tonight we celebrate the fall of humanity." His advisors laughed and cheered. They did not notice that the servants were moving strangely. They did not see the small device hidden under the main table. They were too busy congratulating themselves. At exactly midnight, every screen in the Empire went dark. Then a new image appeared. It was a blue planet with green land and white clouds. It was Earth. Then came a voice. It was calm and cold and full of quiet anger. "This is Admiral Jack Monroe of the United Earth Fleet. 5 years ago, you murdered our children. You burned our worlds. You declared us unworthy. Tonight we answer." Dropped his wine glass. It shattered on the floor, but he did not notice. He was staring at the screen with all 4 of his eyes wide open. "Impossible," he whispered. "They are broken, they are finished." But the voice continued. "You thought our silence was surrender. You thought our retreat was defeat. You were wrong. We have been watching you. We have been learning. We have been building. And now we are ready." The screen changed again. It showed a fleet of ships unlike anything they had ever seen. They were black as the void between stars. They seemed to drink in the light around them. There were hundreds of them, thousands. "Look upon the Shadow Fleet," Monroe's voice said. "Look upon the answer of humanity, and know that your judgment day has come." Lieutenant Commander Amy Price sat at her control station deep in the asteroid belt. She was the one who had sent the signal. Now she was watching the response. "All ships report ready," she announced. "Shadow Fleet is in position across 12 systems." On the bridge of the UES Vengeance, Admiral Monroe nodded. This was the moment he had waited 5 years for. This was the moment when humanity stopped hiding and started fighting. "All ships," he said, "begin Operation Thunder." Across the galaxy, the darkness came alive. Shadow Fleet ships appeared out of nowhere. Their stealth systems had hidden them for weeks. They had been waiting in the shadows of asteroids and moons and dead planets. Now they struck. Captain Nick Palmer led the first attack on the supply lines. His squadron of stealth destroyers dropped out of cloak right in the middle of a convoy. The crews barely had time to scream. "Fire all weapons," Palmer ordered. The new quantum disruption cannons tore through shields like paper. Ships that had seemed invincible 5 years ago now exploded in balls of blue fire. In 1 hour, Palmer's squadron destroyed 47 cargo vessels. "This is for New Geneva," he said as he watched the last ship die. At the same time, the Iron Legion made their move. Drop pods fell from the sky on 3 occupied human worlds. They landed in the ruins of cities that they had conquered. They brought death with them. Major Sam Bradley was the first one out of his pod on the colony of New. He had been there before the attack, 5 years ago. He remembered the streets full of life. Now they were full of soldiers and human slaves. Not for long. His enhanced eyes scanned the area. He counted 12 guards at the slave compound. They were not paying attention. They were looking at their communication devices, confused by the signal that had interrupted their celebration. "Iron Legion," Bradley whispered into his radio. "Move." His soldiers flowed through the streets like shadows. They made no sound. They never saw them coming. In 3 minutes, all 12 guards were dead. The gate to the slave compound opened. Inside, thousands of humans looked up with fear in their eyes. They had been told that Earth had forgotten them. They had been told that no one was coming to save them. Bradley took off his helmet. He wanted them to see a human face. "My name is Major Sam Bradley of the United Earth Forces," he said. "We have not forgotten you. We have not abandoned you. We are here to take you home." For a moment there was silence. Then someone started crying. Then someone started cheering. Then everyone was crying and cheering at the same time. 5 years of fear and pain and hopelessness poured out of them. Bradley felt something wet on his own face. He realized he was crying too. "Get them to the extraction ships," he told his soldiers. "Every single one of them." Back on Prime, High Commander was screaming at his generals. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Where did these ships come from? Why did we not see them?" No one had answers. The reports coming in were all bad. Human ships were everywhere. Human soldiers were on the ground. Bases were exploding. Supply lines were cut. Communications were jammed. "Send the main fleet," ordered. "Crush them now." But the main fleet had problems of its own. Admiral Monroe had planned for this. He had sent a special team to the military headquarters. Their mission was simple: cause chaos. Agent Chris Bell led the team. They had been on Prime for 2 years, pretending to be slaves. Now they moved through the headquarters building, planting explosives and destroying computers. "All charges set," Bell reported, "detonating in 30 seconds." The explosions rocked the building. Fire and smoke filled the hallways. Officers ran in panic. They could not coordinate their ships. They could not send orders. They were blind and deaf. In space, Captain led the assault on the orbital stations. His ships used a new tactic that Martinez had designed. They called it the slingshot maneuver. They used the gravity of planets and moons to accelerate to incredible speeds, then struck the enemy before they could react. "Coming around the moon now," reported. "Target in sight." The station was huge. It had weapons that could destroy entire cities, but it was designed to fight enemies that it could see coming. It was not designed for enemies that appeared out of nowhere. And his squadron hit the station from 3 directions at once. Their quantum disruption weapons tore through the shields. Their missiles found the weak points that human spies had identified years ago. In 10 minutes, the station was nothing but floating debris. "Station destroyed," reported, "moving to next target." On Earth, President Grant watched the battle reports come in. His war council sat around him, barely able to believe what they were seeing. "We are winning," Defense Secretary Morgan said. She sounded surprised. "We are actually winning." Doctor smiled his cold smile. "Of course we are winning," he said. "We had 5 years to study them. We know every weakness. We know every flaw. They have been sitting still while we have been evolving." Admiral Monroe's voice came over the communication system. "Mr. President, Phase 1 is complete. All primary targets destroyed. Enemy forces in disarray. We are moving to Phase 2. Grant nodded. Phase 2 was the push into space. They were not going to stop at liberating human worlds. They were going to take the fight to the enemy's home. "Proceed, Admiral," Grant said. "Show them no mercy. They showed none to us." In the ruins of the command center, High Commander pulled himself from the rubble. His robes were torn. His face was bleeding. He looked around at the destruction with shock and horror. Just hours ago, he had been celebrating victory. Now his empire was burning. A screen still worked nearby. It showed the human flag again. Then Admiral Monroe's face appeared. "High Commander," Monroe said, "I know you are watching. I want you to see what is coming. I want you to understand what you brought upon yourself when you bombed New Geneva." The screen showed the Shadow Fleet moving through space. World after world fell before them. The crystal ships that had seemed so powerful now shattered like glass. "We are coming for you," Monroe said. "We are coming for your throne and your council and your entire empire. You cannot stop us. You cannot hide from us. The only question is whether you will face us with courage or die like a coward in a hole." Stared at the screen. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. The humans had come back, and they had brought hell with them. The war that followed was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity did not fight for land or resources. They fought for justice. They fought for the millions who had died, and they were unstoppable. Admiral Monroe pushed the offensive deep into territory. Every week, his fleet grew larger. Ships that had been hidden in the shadows now flew openly under the Earth flag. Veterans who had survived the first attacks came back to fight. Young volunteers from every human world joined the cause. They tried to respond. They sent their best fleets to stop the human advance, but their ships, designed to crush weaker species, could not handle human tactics. Captain led the assault on the fortress World of. It was supposed to be impossible to attack. It had 3 layers of orbital defenses. It had 100 warships guarding it. It had weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Did not care. He had lost his brother at New Geneva. He had a debt to pay. "All ships execute slingshot maneuver," he ordered. His fleet used the gravity of a nearby gas giant to accelerate to incredible speed. They came at from an angle they had never expected. Their quantum weapons punched holes in the orbital defenses. Their missiles found the weak points in the fortress shields. In 4 hours fell. The commander surrendered when threatened to bring down the entire orbital ring on his head. "Tell your masters what happened here," said to the prisoners. "Tell them that humanity is coming. Tell them there is no place in the galaxy where they can hide." Word of the human victory spread across the stars. Other species had been watching. For centuries, the Dominion had ruled through fear. They had crushed anyone who resisted. They had made slaves of entire civilizations. But now they were losing, and the oppressed began to wonder if they too could be free. Ambassador Foster traveled to the. There were a quiet people with gray skin and large eyes. They had conquered them 200 years ago. They had been slaves ever since. "We know what the Dominion did to you," Foster said to the council. "We know the pain they have caused. We come to offer you a choice. Join us, and together we will end the forever." The elder looked at her for a long moment. Then he stood up and bowed. "For 200 years we have dreamed of freedom," he said. "We never believed it was possible, but you humans have shown us that anything is possible. We will fight with you." One by one, other species joined the human coalition. The whose children had been taken to work in mines. The whose had been stripped of resources. The whose leaders had been executed for daring to resist. Each species had their own ships, their own soldiers, their own reasons to hate the Dominion. Together with humanity, they formed an alliance that shook the foundations of the empire. General Dan Porter coordinated the intelligence efforts across all species. His spy network now covered every corner of space. Nothing moved without him knowing. "The Dominion is falling apart," he reported to the War Council. "Their governors are fleeing. Their soldiers are deserting. They can feel the end coming." On the ground, the Iron Legion continued their campaign of liberation. Major Sam Bradley led mission after mission to free human prisoners and destroy bases. On the world of, he found something that made even his enhanced heart break. It was a camp where they had been conducting experiments on human children. They wanted to understand why humans were so determined, so willing to fight and die for each other. Bradley freed the children. There were 47 of them. Most were too young to understand what was happening. Some just stared with empty eyes. The things that had been done to them were beyond description. "Get them to the medical ships," Bradley ordered. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking with rage. "And burn this place to the ground. I do not want a single stone left standing." He personally carried the youngest child to the rescue shuttle. She was maybe 4 years old. She looked up at him with big brown eyes. "Are you a soldier?" she asked. "Yes," Bradley said. "Are you going to stop the bad aliens?" "Yes," Bradley said again. "I promise." Back on Earth, the news of what had been done to the children spread across every human world. It was the final spark that turned anger into fury. Recruiting stations were overwhelmed with volunteers. Factories worked around the clock to build more weapons and ships. Even Doctor, who had spent 5 years focused on nothing but war, was affected. "I have designed a new weapon," he told President Grant. "I was saving it in case we needed it. Now I think we should use it." He showed the president the plans for something called the Star Hammer. It was a weapon that could destroy an entire battle station with a single shot. It worked by creating a small black hole that lasted for only a fraction of a second, but was enough to swallow anything nearby. "Build it," Grant said. "Build 10 of them." The final push toward Prime began in the 18th month of the war. Commander Lisa Harper led the orbital blockade. Her ships surrounded cutting off all supplies and reinforcements. "Nothing goes in or out," she ordered. They wanted to starve humanity. Now they can see how it feels. On the ground, General Porter coordinated the invasion forces. Humans, and fought side by side. They landed on the beaches and in the mountains and in the cities. They pushed the defenders back meter by meter. The crystal towers of the capital city fell one by one. The streets that had seen centuries of arrogance now echoed with the boots of free people. High Commander retreated to his bunker deep beneath the city. He still had guards and weapons. He still believed he could survive. But Major Bradley and his Iron Legion found him. They cut through his guards like wind through leaves. They broke down his doors and shattered his defenses. And finally, Bradley stood face to face with the creature who had ordered the destruction of New Geneva. Looked at him with hatred and fear. "You were nothing," hissed. "You were primitives playing with fire. How did you defeat us?" Bradley remembered the little girl from. He remembered the children who had died in the experiments. He remembered the 8 million people who had burned at New Geneva. "You made a mistake," Bradley said quietly. "You assumed that because we were peaceful, we were weak. You assumed that because we reached for the stars with hope, we could not reach for them with fury. You bombed us. You killed our children. You thought that would break us." He leaned closer, his enhanced eyes glowing in the dim light of the bunker. "It did not break us. It freed us. It freed us from the idea that the universe was kind. It freed us from the hope that other species would treat us fairly. It taught us that survival means being willing to do whatever is necessary." Tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go. "You created the monsters you feared," Bradley continued. "You turned humanity into the thing that will haunt your species for 1,000 generations. Every child will learn about us. Every parent will use our name to frighten them into obedience. We are the consequence of your cruelty. We are the answer to your crimes." He grabbed and dragged him toward the surface. "And now you will face justice. Not human justice, not quick death. You will stand before all the species you have wronged. You will hear the names of everyone you killed, and then they will decide your fate." The Dominion fell that day. Their empire, built on conquest and cruelty, crumbled before an enemy they had underestimated in every way. Humanity had not just survived, humanity had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same. The war was over. The Dominion had fallen. Across the galaxy, billions of beings celebrated their freedom. Fireworks lit up the skies of 100 worlds. Songs were sung in languages that humanity had never heard. And in the ruins of the capital, a new chapter in galactic history was about to begin. The Treaty of New Geneva was signed exactly 6 years after the original massacre. The location was deliberate. President Grant had insisted on it. "We will remember what happened here," he said. "We will never forget, and we will make sure the galaxy never forgets either." The signing ceremony took place in a great hall that humanity had built over the ashes of the old colony. Representatives from 20 species stood in rows. They were there, their gray faces calm and peaceful. They were there, their silver scales shining in the light. The and a dozen others who had joined the human coalition stood proud and free. And in the center, guarded by Iron Legion soldiers, stood the surviving leaders of the Dominion. High Commander was among them. He looked broken and old. The arrogance that had once filled his 4 eyes was gone. Only fear remained. President Grant walked to the podium. The hall fell silent. "6 years ago they came to this world," he began. "They came without warning. They came without mercy. They killed 8 million innocent people. Men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong. People who only wanted to live in peace among the stars." He paused and looked directly at. They believed they were superior. They believed they had the right to decide who was worthy to exist. They believed that might made right, that the strong could do whatever they wanted to the weak. Grant's voice grew stronger. "They were wrong, and today they will answer for their crimes." The trial lasted 3 months. Every species that had suffered under rule was given the chance to speak. Witnesses told stories of slavery and torture. Scientists presented evidence of experiments and atrocities. Survivors showed scars that would never heal. And the other leaders were found guilty of crimes against sapient life. They were sentenced to spend the rest of their lives in prison on a cold moon at the edge of known space. They would never see sunlight again. They would never know freedom. They would have years to think about what they had done. Some thought the punishment was too mild. They wanted execution. They wanted blood. But Admiral Monroe spoke against it. "If we kill them, we become what they were," he said. "We prove that we are no different. No, let them live. Let them rot in their cells. Let them hear about the galaxy moving on without them. Let them know that everything they built has been destroyed and that they will be forgotten while their victims are remembered forever." The council agreed. Justice, not revenge, would be the foundation of the new order. The human coalition became the Galactic Alliance. It was a new kind of government built on principles that had never been tried before. Every species had an equal voice. Every world had protection. The strong were expected to help the weak, not prey upon them. Ambassador Foster was chosen to lead the first session of the Alliance Council. "We have all suffered," she said. "We have all lost, but from our pain we have built something new. A galaxy where no species will ever again face what we faced. A galaxy where children can grow up without fear. A galaxy where hope is stronger than hatred." The representatives cheered. Some cried. For the first time in centuries, the future looked bright. Admiral Monroe retired after the war. He had given everything to the fight. His health was broken. His hair had turned white. But he had kept his promise. He had made the galaxy safe. He moved to New Geneva, to the rebuilt colony that stood as a symbol of human determination. He lived in a small house near the Memorial Gardens, where the names of the fallen were carved into walls of black stone. Every morning he walked through the gardens. He read the names. He remembered the people behind them. One day, he met a young woman walking the same path. She had dark hair and serious eyes. She was carrying flowers to place at one of the memorial walls. "Can I help you find a name?" Monroe asked. The woman looked at him. Then recognition dawned on her face. "You are Admiral Monroe," she said. "I used to be." "My parents are on this wall," she said. "I was 3 years old when the attack happened. A rescue team found me holding my teddy bear. I was the only survivor from my block." Monroe's heart stopped. He remembered the reports. He remembered the little girl named Emma. "You grew up well," he said softly. Emma smiled, but there was sadness in it. "I grew up angry," she said. "I wanted revenge. I wanted to hurt the aliens who hurt us. But then I realized something. Revenge would not bring my parents back. It would not heal what was broken. The only thing that could heal was building something better." She placed her flowers at the wall. "So now I am a doctor. I help people who are hurting, humans and other species too. I figure that is what my parents would have wanted." Monroe felt tears on his face. He did not wipe them away. "Your parents would be very proud," he said. Commander Lisa Harper took command of the 1st Expeditionary Fleet. Her mission was to explore beyond known space, to find new worlds and new species, and to carry the message of the Galactic Alliance to anyone who would listen. Before she left, she visited Monroe in his garden. "I never thought I would see this day," she said. "A galaxy at peace, humans respected instead of hunted. It seems like a dream." "It is not a dream," Monroe said. "It is the result of sacrifice and blood and tears. Never forget what it cost, and never let anyone take it for granted." Harper nodded. She understood. "We will carry the torch," she promised. "We will show the galaxy who humanity really is. Not conquerors, not destroyers, explorers, builders, protectors." She saluted him one last time. Then she walked away toward the stars. Doctor continued his work, but now he focused on creation instead of destruction. He developed new technologies that improved life across the galaxy. Faster ships, better medicine, cleaner energy. He dedicated every innovation to the memory of those who had died. When he received the highest scientific award from the Galactic Alliance, he gave a short speech. "I spent years building weapons of war," he said. "Now I build tools of peace, but I want everyone to remember something. We can build wonderful things when we work together, but we must always be ready to defend what we love. Peace is not weakness. Peace is strength that chooses not to destroy. Never forget the difference." Major Bradley left the Iron Legion after the war. He could not unsee the things he had seen. The children in the camps, the bodies in the streets, the fear in his eyes when he realized that his empire was falling. He found a small planet at the edge of human space and built a farm there. He grew vegetables and raised animals. He lived simply and quietly. But every year, on the anniversary of the war's end, he put on his old uniform and traveled to New Geneva. He walked through the Memorial Gardens. He remembered his fallen soldiers. And he visited a special room in the hospital, where 47 children who had been rescued from the experiments were slowly learning to live again. The little girl he had carried to the shuttle was 10 years old now. Her name was Maya. She ran to him every time he visited. "Bradley," she shouted happily, "you came back." "I always come back," he said. "I promised, did I not?" Across the galaxy, a new saying spread among the spacefaring species. It was passed from elder to youth, from parent to child, from teacher to student. It became a warning that everyone understood. Never corner a human. Never threaten their home. Never assume their silence means surrender. because when humanity answers, the stars themselves will tremble. Earth had been bombed, millions had died, a species had tried to wipe humanity from existence. They had failed. Instead, they had awakened something that had always been inside humanity: the determination to survive, the courage to fight, the wisdom to build something better from the ashes. They had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. They had succeeded beyond their worst nightmares. Humanity had learned, and now the entire galaxy was safer because of it. In the memorial gardens of New Geneva, a stone plaque stood at the entrance. It carried words that every visitor read before they walked among the names of the fallen. Here we remember those who died in the darkness. Here we celebrate those who brought the light. May their sacrifice never be forgotten. May their courage always inspire. May humanity always reach for the stars with hope in our hearts and strength in our hands. The sun set over New Geneva. The stars came out, bright and beautiful. And somewhere among them, ships of the Galactic Alliance sailed peacefully through the void, carrying the promise of a new dawn. Humanity had answered, and the universe would never be the same.